I was born and raised in Amarillo, Texas, and I was raised by my father, Doug Slay, my grandmother, Dorothy Slay. I started wrestling when I was 6 years old. My father took me to the downtown YMCA, boys club. In my first year, I actually was 0-20. I lost every single match, but because of the friendships I made, because of my friends and their families and how they continue to support me and love me and take care of me, I wanted to come back and continue wrestling that second year. Wrestling was a sport that, based on my size, being 5'8", 180 pounds in high school, that was a sport I realized that I could be great. So I wrestled at Tascosa High School in Amarillo, Texas, and my freshman year in high school, I got second in the state tournament. And then the next 3 years, I was able to win the state tournament and become a 3-time state champion. I started being recruited by colleges, and I think that really came from the fact that I wrestled freestyle and Greco-Roman in the summer times. And so they started recruiting me, and in the end, it really came down to the University of Pennsylvania had the best academic program. I was accepted to the Wharton School of Business, which was the #1 business school in the nation.
He demonstrated commitment, energy, passion. He was a leader and a role model for our team. He never was satisfied with his performances. He always wanted to get better. He was an amazingly hard worker who also was focused on his studies. He never wanted to be just an athlete. He wanted to be a true student athlete.
So Brandon was always a great student of the sport, and whether it was on the mat in practice situations or in competitions, talking through situations, and as our relationship grew, coach and athlete, really breaking down film and scouting opponents, spending a lot of time on video and preparation, I think gave a lot of confidence, and I think he was always very well prepared. And I think that's carried forward into his coaching. His ability to scout opponents, break things down, and translate those to his athletes, I think has been very effective.
And Penn hadn't had an NCAA champion in over 40 years. Actually hadn't had an All-American in over 40 years. So those are things that I wanted to accomplish. And I qualified for the NCAA tournament my freshman and sophomore year, but did not place. And then my junior and senior year, I was able to make the NCAA finals in both of those years, and I got second in the nation twice.
In a lot of ways, you can view him as almost the trailblazer for the program. He was the first guy of the Roger Reina era to break onto the NCAA podium and helped us all realize that goal, which we all had, and those dreams that we all had were attainable.
Foxcatcher was about 30 minutes away outside of Philadelphia, and so I had the opportunity to wrestle with Dave Schultz. And so the year I was taking off from Penn on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I was actually going out to Foxcatcher and wrestling with Dave. And so having the opportunity to wrestle and be around a legend, an Olympic champion like Dave Schultz, was something that had a huge impact on my life. And then after Penn, when I moved out to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, Colorado, Kevin Jackson became my coach at the Olympic Training Center. And Kevin, as an Olympic champion and somebody actually got second in the NCAA tournament twice. And so he was somebody that was a great example of how you didn't have to be an NCAA champion to become an Olympic champion. And he definitely planted that seed with me that really grew.
Brandon was a pleasure to coach. Once he went all in mentally, physically, and spiritually, he moved to the next level. He exploded to the next level. Brandon was willing to do anything and everything to be the very best in the world.
My favorite moment when thinking back over Brandon's career wasn't here at Penn. It wasn't at the University of Pennsylvania as a student athlete alongside him. It was actually, I was a fan. I was in the stands watching him wrestle in the U.S. Nationals as the precursor to the Olympic trials, and I noticed a stark difference in Brandon's demeanor, in the way that he carried himself through the arena, and the way that he carried himself on the mat, and just as a person. And he was simply more relaxed than he had ever been before. I think he was very comfortable with who he was, and I think it showed a real level of maturity and just a growth process.
And unfortunately, for the first time, I was able to beat Joe Williams, make it to the finals of the Olympic trials. And the Olympic trials in 2000, I think, just kind of serendipitously happened to be in Texas. And I probably spent 90% of my time training for Joe Williams. But my assistant coach at Penn during those 4 years, Brian Dolph, upset Joe Williams, made it to the finals against me, and so I realized I was going to have to wrestle one of my friends, coaches, and mentors to make the Olympic team. And I had a lot of confidence going into that match, and fortunately was able to make the Olympic team that night. The interesting thing about the Olympics and freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling on the world level is that it's a random draw. So you don't know who you're going to have for sure. You just don't know what you're going to get until you get there and make weight and see the draws. So I knew for me to be an Olympic champion, I knew I was going to have to beat Bouvaisa Satiev, who was the reigning Olympic champion from 1996. He's the reigning world champion. And so whether I had him first round, second round, or whether I had him in the finals, I knew I was going to have to beat him. To double leg him in overtime, to win that match was something that was priceless. It was something that I'll never forget. And it's something that actually I'm honored that a lot of people continue to ask me about and talk to me about, because it was an amazing moment in my life.
I'd have to say that his win over Satiev, probably on the freestyle end, is one of the biggest that USA Wrestling's ever had.
I think the greatest thing I've learned from wrestling is just to compete through everything I do, to struggle through, to wrestle through everything I do, to have grit in everything I do, and to not give up. I mean, whether it has to do with clearly coaching now, to be the best coach I can be, to more importantly, be the best husband I can be, the best father I can be. When I was in the business world, to be the best businessman I can be. Regardless of what I'm doing, I want to be the best I can be. I want to wrestle through that. I want to compete through that. I'm married to Tina, and we have 3 girls, Sydney, Charlotte, and Savannah, and they're all 4 and under right now. So when people ask me what I do, I always just tell them that I coach guys and raise girls. For me, the greatest lesson I've learned is that my faith and being a Christian and believing in Jesus Christ, my family, my friendships that I've made throughout the years, and then just seeking to be a man of character and integrity. My faith, family, friends, and seeking to have that character, those things are greater to me than any gold medal or first place trophy that I've ever won in my life. It's the utmost honor to be inducted among so many amazing human beings, to now be able to stand alongside them and be enshrined among them is something that it's a priceless feeling. It's something that I'll definitely honor for the rest of my life.